Who is Isaac Newton? Newton's life and study. The English scientist Isaac Newton was born in 1642 AD, in Lincolnshire, England, the son of an English farmer who died 3 months before his birth. He later joined King's School in Grantham, near his place of residence, and followed that up by joining Trinity College at Cambridge University in 1661 AD. Newton took the classical curriculum in Cambridge in its infancy, but he admired the work of contemporary philosophers such as René Descartes, and dedicated a set of notes to his external philosophical readings, and put them under the title, Special Philosophical Questions. When the plague caused the closure of Cambridge University in 1665 AD, Newton returned to his home and he developed his theories in calculus, integration, light science, and color. 1. Newton was one of the leaders of the scientific revolution in the 17th century, specializing in physics and mathematics, and one of the most important books he wrote was the book Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy, in 1687 AD, which was considered one of the most important works in the history of modern science. 2. Newton became one of the most famous and richest personalities in Europe, due to his scientific discoveries that contributed to the development and progress of science, and because of the position he reached at that time and his correct investment of his income. Newton is known for his contribution to many charitable works. 3. Newton's achievements. The scientist Newton discovered many great discoveries that had a clear impact on the development and progress of science. Among his most important discoveries are the following. 4. Newton's laws of motion. The scientist Newton set 3 basic laws in kinematics and named after him, and these laws deal with a description of fixed and moving objects, the influence of external forces on them, and the factors affecting these forces of mass and acceleration. 5. Newton's first law. This law relates to the inertia of bodies, and states that a stationary body remains stationary, unless an external force is acted upon by an external force that forces it to move, and the moving body remains in motion, unless a force acts on it that stops its motion. Newton's second law of motion. This law is concerned with calculating force, as it states that the force is equal to the mass of a body multiplied by its acceleration, and this law describes the weight of bodies where the mass of the body is equal to the acceleration of gravity. Newton's third law. The law states that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Gravity. Newton was the first to discover the force of gravity, which he realized because of which there is a force of attraction between any two bodies, and it is related this force and its amount are the mass of the two bodies, as the body with the largest mass attracts the bodies towards it, and this is the reason why the apple falls towards the ground and does not rise to the top, because the large mass of the earth attracts the bodies towards it. 6. Newton believed that gravity is too broad to be confined to the earth and the things on it, as it can be related to all objects in the universe, which prompted Newton to calculate the force needed to keep the moon in its orbit around the earth, and compared it to the force that makes an apple fall towards the earth, taking into account that the mass of the moon is much greater than the apple, and that the distance between the earth and the moon is very large. He found that the forces are similar and that the moon revolves around the earth due to gravity. Simple at its poles, his belief was based on mathematical and engineering calculations that take into account gravitational and centrifugal forces, and this theory was confirmed by the scientific missions of Peru in 1735 AD and Lapland in 1736 AD, where it was proven that the Earth's equatorial diameter is 12,755.66 kilometers, while its polar diameter is 12,713.82. How much? 7. Analyzing the white color and the invention of the telescope. Newton discovered the method of analyzing white light, which contributed to the development of the phenomenon of colors in the science of light and laid the foundations of optics in modern physics. Newton also invented the reflecting telescope, whose use later developed. 8. Other achievements. Newton's scientific achievements were numerous. In addition to his famous achievements that he presented to science, He has less well-known achievements such as formulating an empirical law of cooling, studying the speed of sound, and developing the concept of the Newtonian fluid, a term for fluids in which force and deformation are linear with time, in addition to his interest in chemistry, but most of his work in these fields remained unpublished for a long time. After his death. 9. Newton's last years and his death. Newton's life was far from perfect and ideal, so he lived his life without getting married, and he did not make strong friendships in his life, and in his last years some of his few friends mentioned that he had many strange scientific inquiries that questioned his sanity, and Newton lived his last days in the Cranberry Park area near from the city of Winchester, with his niece Catherine and her husband John Conduit. Newton suffered from many digestive problems by the age of 80, which led to a complete change in his diet and extreme difficulty in his ability to move, and in 1727 AD Newton suffered severe pain in his abdomen and lost his conscious consciousness, and died the next day at the age of 84.